Welcome back to Close Up. This morning we've heard from the parties, and now it's time to hear from the political science department. And who better to provide some perspective heading into the next First in the Nation cycle than the man who literally wrote the book on the New Hampshire primary, Dr. Dante Scala of the University of New Hampshire. The book, of course, Stormy Weather. It's a great read if you haven't tried it out. So,
well, thanks.
There you go. What's your takeaway from these midterms? Fascinating contest of elections.
Yeah, I mean, studying elections is a lesson in humility. And I remember the days before the election agonizing over how a close election might turn out. And within an hour after the first returns came in, I realized that all my preconceptions I could toss in the garbage. Midterms are always surprising in New Hampshire, and this was that rare surprise, a surprise that was in favor of the party in power instead of in favor of the party out of power. And that, to me, looking back, turnout, if I had one thing to go back and reconsider, it's like, okay, what if turnout goes through the roof? What does that mean for Democrats, right? And turnout above 600,000, Democrats just threw up this big blue wall in places like Concord, Dover, Durham, and they dared the Republicans to climb it, and they just couldn't. Another thing is Republicans in New Hampshire have an Interstate 93 problem. Like all along the Interstate 93 corridor, places like Bedford, which 2 decades ago, maybe even just a decade ago, solidly Republican. And now those places are swing towns in New Hampshire. They voted for Chris Sununu, but then they voted for Maggie Hassan. They voted for Joe Biden. And Republicans have to figure that out, how to get those voters on board in federal elections, not just for Chris Sununu, but up and down the ticket.
Clearly, abortion and the Dobbs decision was a huge motivator for a lot of voters out there. I'm curious, a lot of times in these elections we see these kind of one-off things happening, but this issue, the overturning of a 50-year Supreme Court decision, do you think this is going to hang around a little and be kind of not just an albatross around the neck of Republicans, but something that's almost politically radioactive until it's resolved?
Yeah, and when will it be resolved is a huge, I think for this cycle, you're absolutely right. Republicans had the problem of voters don't like the status quo disrupted. And Roe was the status quo for a lot of voters, even those who are in the middle on abortion. They don't have strong opinions either way. They're ambivalent about it. Going forward, again, where's the compromise going to come from, right? It's not, the Supreme Court has ruled, they're set for a while, I believe. Congress, we have a divided Congress. We're going to get an abortion law that solves the national, debate. I doubt it. So I think it's, for the foreseeable future, it's going on through the states. And that's a challenge to Republicans, no doubt. But it's also a challenge to Democrats. Democrats, Maggie Hassan, Chris Pappas, they didn't leave much room for compromise either. They were no, we want to go back to the way things were. Is there a middle? Maybe it's just going, the democratic process perhaps will sort this out, but this could be a decades-long thing, not a short-term fix.
Also, a nationwide rejection of election denialism. What were your thoughts on that?
2 cheers for democracy. It was great to see even people who denied the legitimacy of the 2020 election, like Caroline Leavitt, get up and make a graceful concession to her opponent immediately after the election was over. That happened not just in New Hampshire, but it happened around the country, even among people who denied elections. And so that was a really good sign for democracy, because norms are important, right? Even those things we always took for granted, that the loser concedes to the winner and says, hey, I lost, you won. We saw a lot of that, and that was good news. And I think it's good news also that it shows a sign to Republicans in particular to say, hey, election denialism is not a winner, right? I think there'll be a lot of Republicans who will go to their graves saying the 2020 election, there was something fishy about that. But that doesn't mean necessarily that going forward, that's going to become the norm, that you deny elections that you lost.
Donald Trump is back. 2024, the hat has been thrown in the ring. I'm curious, a lot of this launch and the discussion, it feels a little familiar to 2015, saying, oh gosh, there's no way this is going to happen. Certain Republicans saying it's time to move forward. I'm just wondering if we just have to look at this as, once again, Donald Trump being underestimated, and everyone does that at their own peril.
Yeah, to me, the announcement felt like The Apprentice Season 8. As opposed to The Apprentice Season 1. He can't be the new thing forever. And now we're 6 years past when he first got in, 7 years past when he first got into the race. So things have changed in that regard. But on the other hand, you think about the fundamentals of winning a primary. You need money, you need a message, and you need momentum. I would say he's at least got 2 of 3. He's going to have money from small donors who won't stop giving him money. He has a message that resonates at least among a significant part of the Republican base. Whether he has momentum, I have the most doubt about that. Because again, it feels a little tired. But you can't beat something with nothing. You know, everyone's trumping up Ron DeSantis, so to speak. Will he come through on all the promise? We've seen a lot of candidates with a lot of promise come and go when it comes to actually getting in front of voters.
Yeah, for those who watch closely, you don't always want to be the guy, 2 years out. That can be a very difficult place to be. And yet, in 2015 and 16, Donald Trump was so famous. A lot of people said, well, he just never had to do the New Hampshire thing of going and shaking hands because the rallies were huge almost from the get-go. But do you think he might be susceptible at all to someone who does come in and really try to kind of do the John McCain thing, go hard at the grassroots? In particular, with the example we've just had of Don Bolduc, someone who had almost no money and focused like a laser on those grassroots with the town halls and was able to win an election in which he didn't have the resources.
It's plausible. I mean, it's really hard to see Donald Trump doing a town hall in front of 200 people in Milford anytime soon, answering questions for an hour. So someone could, steal that thunder from him by going about it the old-fashioned way. Will Ron DeSantis do that? Because the minute he steps in New Hampshire, he's going to have huge numbers of people. So maybe, as you said, maybe there'll be someone lurking in the weeds who will be kind of building the old-fashioned way, peaking at the right moment. It's certainly possible because I think a lot of Republicans right now in New Hampshire are doing a lot of soul searching because things haven't been great for them during the Trump era. They're 0 for 10 in congressional elections since 2016. So a lot of them, I think, even Trump voters are going to say, is there something new out there? And New Hampshire voters are always interested in what's new in American politics, not what's old in American politics.
Last question for you, Doctor. Interested what you think about the forecast, I guess, for the Democratic decision on the first in the nation primary. Of course, New Hampshire by law will still hold the first primary on the calendar no matter when that is, but the DNC still has a decision to make in terms of what its early state calendar looks like. Nevada has been the big challenger and took them about 96 hours to figure out who won a Senate race. I'm wondering if you think that makes any difference to the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee.
Yeah, I have a colleague who follows this closely, the nomination process, Josh Putnam, and he says basically, if it were easy to change the process, we'd do it a lot more often than we do. And to me, the DNC faces this problem. It's like a Jenga game. You pull out one piece, and then the whole tower starts to waver. Nevada's, is difficult in terms of voting. They also have early voting, right? How does that factor in? Is there a potential compromise there in terms of letting Nevada start to vote, but we put in our results first and then let Nevada put in their, final results later? It's complicated. And, Nevada has a Republican governor now. Will that make a difference? So a lot for the DNC to sort out and not much time to do it.
All right, Dr. Dante Scala, we appreciate the perspective as always. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.